My name is David White. Lynn Shakespeare of Central City, Iowa asked me to give witness testimony to what I know of a business plan he created, also the history of how Mark Zuckerberg, that also went by Marcel Elliott Zuckerberg and Zuck, stole it from Lynn. I first met Lynn while working as a guard, and we became friends ever since. I have to say he is the most honest and decent person I have met. In that time, I learned that Lynn would design and write up ideas and plans. He was always studying, reading, or listening to something. He had many notebooks with his ideas and designs. He would talk about them with me and ask for opinions. Lynn would often talk about his friends before we met. One of them was a young woman named Tiffany Musil. She became paralyzed just after starting college. He looked out for her and was determined to find a way to help her. He turned down a job overseas. He turned down a job opportunity of a lifetime overseas to stay local, to be there for her and his mother that was taking care of his stepdad. He mentioned while working on the business plan that it could help Tiffany and others. He explained that he used experiences from friends and family to create it. Some of those were his ex-girlfriend that sold advertising and design, his sister that did surveys for a large marketing research company and majored in public relations, a school friend that was into computers, hacking, and programming, and his friend Tiffany that was paralyzed. He called it the plan to do it all and help all. I know he worked on the plan when we met in the mid-90s. Then he was looking for a way to start it and investors in 2000 and after. I know he was afraid of getting it taken from him. He lost the design to a patent attorney in the past. Lynn was having serious health problems with constant vertigo and headaches. He was recovering from a serious eye injury. He lost his job and was trying to make ends meet and find a way to start the business. He would collect campers and park them out. That's when he met Mark Zuckerberg. I remember the history very well, as I was visiting then and later. When I came down to visit, Lynn was upset about the constant health problems that was making it very hard or impossible to do what he did before. When I arrived, he was burning papers in a trash barrel. I could tell he was very upset. I asked what he was doing, and he said he was burning his notebooks. I kicked the barrel over and stomped the fire out. Nothing was savable. He was so upset about what happened to his life. He said that if he was to be nothing, the world deserved nothing. He kept the business plan and said he had to find a way. Mark contacted Lynn wanting parts to convert a bus that he wanted to live in at college. Then he was going to do videos of the transformation and the experience to post online. He drove it to Central City, Iowa. He drove to Central City, Iowa in a small car to see what Lynn had. He said he was planning to take classes in Iowa and meet up with his friends at Harvard afterward. He asked if he could come back with the bus and stay the holiday weekend. Lynn agreed to let him stay. Lynn told me what happened, and I was also witness to some of it. Mark told Lynn his idea of doing videos and hoping it would generate an income. Lynn learned that he was in the same computer hacking club as his friend from school. Lynn mentioned that he was trying to find a way to get the online business started. Mark liked the idea and said he thought he could get him the investors to start it. Mark did find the investors. Lynn also talked to a Harvard student as a possible investor that would later fight Mark over ownership. Lynn was excited that it was going to get started, calling friends and family with the good news. Everything was looking good for Lynn. Then it suddenly changed. Mark couldn't be trusted. There was a lawyer that was a friend of Mark that Lynn talked to on the first day when Mark called him to see if he could help with Lynn's eye injury. The lawyer got involved after learning of the business plan, and Mark Zuckerberg decided that he wanted Lynn's business plan and investors for himself. Lynn was afraid it was going to get stolen from him like his design he tried to patent. Mark kept bothering Lynn that he wanted it. Mark eventually convinced him that he would see a good return for using it. Lynn wanted more, and Mark wanted to give less. Lynn kept on saying the main point is funds need to help free clinics, shelters, and MDA. I pointed out that he needed to think of himself. He thought if it went online, Tiffany could keep in contact with family and friends easier. I think Mark took advantage of the situation. The lawyer negotiated the deal and coached Mark, then told them to do a video of the agreement that would later be in writing. Everything seemed to go well until Mark asked for Lynn to give up intellectual ownership to the original work, and he refused. Then Mark refused to give Lynn a copy of the disc with the video business agreement as agreed, then said he didn't want any recordings taken of him as proof. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Okay, Mark also said he was a player and asked Lynn if he thought he could trust him. Lynn was upset and felt that Mark robbed him and didn't know what to do. He called friends and family for opinions. He debated if he should stop him from leaving. The day afterward, the girlfriend Priscilla Chan arrived to pick up the dog while Mark was getting ready to leave. Before Mark left, he stole the business plan and anything that could prove he was there. I seriously wonder if the lawyer, Mark, and Priscilla had the theft planned out. I think Priscilla was keeping Lynn occupied while Mark stole everything. I know Lynn had contact information, including email to Mark's dad. No one would answer a call or respond to an email, and Lynn was at a loss. All he could do was just wait for the outcome. Lynn saw Mark on TV with his idea and was in disbelief. He kept saying, maybe it's not him. It was definitely him. Lynn kept saying, why did they do that? After he agreed to what they wanted. When it went online, Lynn was surprised that it was his layout. He kept saying it was his design. He was so upset that it devastated him. I think between Mark stealing his life's work and unable to do anything about it and his health, it was too much to deal with. I came down to visit again, and while I was there, the lawyer that helped negotiate the deal between Mark and Lynn called representing Mark Zuckerburg, wanting Lynn to give a statement that Lynn gave the business plan and intellectual ownership to Mark. These people did so much to hurt him, and they came back to the crime scene to ask help to keep what they stole from him. After the call, I said, you didn't do it, did you? He didn't. He told them to abide to the original agreement and to use it as proof to win the case. They refused, and Mark stated that he shouldn't have to abide to it. Then Lynn said, if you're going to keep lying, then make it look like it's your own work. They tried to get Lynn to say he gave the business plan and intellectual rights to Mark and trick him. He said the agreement was to let him use it for a return. In the end, it sounded like Mark was going to make it look like it was his original work and manipulate a recording with the help from the lawyer, and was heard saying, we got it, then voices yelling to hang up, they no longer need another person involved. There were plenty of witnesses to that call, including 2 people that were visiting buying camera equipment, and one identified himself as a state trooper. His mom and his family friend were also listening to the call. Later, Lynn was sitting at a desk in his garage talking to me about the call and looking for a cassette tape. When Mark decided not to give him a copy of the business agreement in the beginning, Lynn tried to get a recording of Mark talking about it. He was so upset, and I was trying to calm him down. I said, I think you're going to have to let it go. Let it go. I know it hurts. I took a lighter to one tape, and as it started to melt, Lynn grabbed it. Still to this day, Lynn has been searching for the tape. Either he has it, and the recording is low, it was recorded over, or Mark managed to take it too. These people have really hurt him bad. They did it in a way that Lynn was left without options. It took someone with experience to do that, like the lawyer. It's my opinion that the lawyer did coach Mark how to do it, and they got wealthy and famous from it. If they didn't do anything wrong, then why go to great effort to hide it? They left Len broke and no way to support himself with his bad health. He barely had time to pay in his Social Security. They literally took his future, his lifeline, and his life's work away. I know his health was bad then, and now he has EDMD, muscular dystrophy, and Sjogren's, and more. Isn't it interesting that the very reason he wanted to start the online business, he now needs to benefit from just to afford to support himself? Lynn asked me to write a witness testimony after being diagnosed with the muscular dystrophy and Sjogren's. He wants this to be a record of what happened, for the world will know, and he or any other person decides to prove or pursue the history on Lynn's behalf. Lynn is right. The history that everyone knows should be corrected and replaced with the true history. Justice should prevail. I think at the very least he deserves that. Lynn also mentioned that it's possible that the government has records to prove what Mark did. I will say this. I am one of the 3 witnesses of the pre-9/11 event that are not to reveal the details. We were monitored and we knew it. It's my opinion Lynn was monitored the most and the longest. He called the FBI to report the event. He wouldn't let it go before or after 9/11, having a strong opinion of it was wrong. He got the worst treatment by agencies. I have without doubt that the government knows what happened with Mark stealing the business plan to create Facebook. It is common sense with a college student from New York staying at his home when he was not to disclose details of it, while the 9/11 Commission was doing an investigation. Thank you.
I want to make it clear I answered the phone when Mark Hollison called. Len was outside and I hollered at him to get phone out there. When I heard him pick it up, I listened into the conversation. Mark Hollison called to ask Len to give a short statement that Mark Zuckerberg got the business plan and idea from Len first and told another Harvard student second. Then Mark Zuckerberg got on the phone and said, "Len, buddy, pal, come on, I need your help. You might see a return." Len said, "I don't understand. Just use the original video business agreement that lawyer told us to do. Then you were supposed to bring back in writing for me to sign." Then he took it off of a conference call. In a furious voice he said, "It's all mine. I deserve it. I did it." Len said, "If you're going to keep lying, then make it look like your own work evolved into it." Then Mark said, "I think I can do that." Len said, "What if I come forward or with proof?" Then Mark started to threaten Len that they would create trouble for Len and would make it up if they had to. Then they argued, trying to get Len to say Len would give up intellectual ownership to business plan. Then I could hear Mark Hollison yell, "We got it!" Then I heard several voices yell, "Hang up the phone. We don't need another person involved." The call ended while Mark Zuckerberg was talking.
Their addresses are covered up. Their names is not. Their signature is not covered up. One of them doesn't live in the state, and one of them would prefer that I read it off for him. My name is Joseph Barber, and I have been asked to give a witness testimony of my knowledge of Mark Zuckerberg, that also went by Marcel Elliott Zuckerberg, and Zuck, staying at a residence in Central City, Iowa. Also, the witness testimony of my knowledge of Mark entering into a business agreement and afterwards stealing a business plan that he used to start Facebook. Let me start by stating I have known Lynn Shakespeare and his family since the late 70s. Over the years, I have got to know Lynn very well. For many years, I have worked with him and beside him on so many projects. I consider Lynn to have good integrity and a kind heart. He has helped people in need for years, handed out food during the farm crisis in the 80s, collected toys and clothes for those in need. He worked on cars for select people for just the cost of parts and dinner, if offered. He supervised a work crew of convicts at a young age, where one tried to kill him and 2 others died. He got a relative out of jail and into his custody, helped co-workers pay for groceries and bills when he had little. He has done security guarding people, a World Bank, and a large warehouses of money and precious metal to and from the mint. He also turned down a job overseas working for one of the wealthiest people in the world to stay close to home to be near his paralyzed female friend and mother that needed help. If you are around Lynn, you realize that he likes to design and create. He studies a wide variety of interests and he jumps around too. Lynn has many notebooks with his ideas and designs in them. For many years, when I would visit Lynn, would bring up something that he was studying or designing. It could be something simple or more specific. Lynn also tried to get a patent on one of his designs that he lost due to a bill he couldn't afford. The invention he had drawn up in the late 80s and is still popular today. Not everything was a design. He had some business ideas, some he thought needed to be started, and contacted companies telling them where it was needed, what to expect for profit, and how to fit it in location. He worked on one business idea for many years, creating a business plan and layouts. He came up with the idea sometime around when his female friend became paralyzed from meningitis. He said he used experiences from friends to create it, and it would do all and help all. He worked on it for years while working long hours. I think he had the plan complete sometime in the mid-90s. Then started asking around for help getting it started close to around 2000. That also when he got hurt at work and was having a problem with the government about something he was a witness to. After Lynn got hurt at work with an eye injury and having constant vertigo, he was trying to find ways to make an income from home. One way was he was picking up and parting out vintage campers. The area that he lived at was close to many parks. While he was parting campers with ads online, a young future college student from New York called him wanting everything to convert a bus into a living space. He was planning on buying a bus to live in at college. Doing videos of the transformation and experience and put it online. He thought the idea would support him. For many years, I spent most of my time at the residence involved in what Lynn was doing. I was there when Mark Zuckerberg first arrived in a little car. From what I remember, it was a small silver car. I think it was a Honda hybrid. Lynn had commented on the condition of the car. It had a broken side window that Mark said he broke out at a ball game after he locked his keys in it. He also showed Lynn that the nose of it was loose at the bottom from bottoming it out. I don't think Mark drove from New York just to look at the camper parts. He mentioned that he was planning to take some classes in Iowa, then would meet up with his friends at Harvard. He mentioned that he had a chance to buy the bus, but had to see if he could find the parts to convert it. Lynn had all the parts, and Mark asked if he could stay the next holiday weekend before college started. He was planning on bringing his girlfriend's lab dog with him and staying on the bus. Lynn agreed to it just to help pay the bills. I think Mark paid Lynn $100 or $150 for all the parts. While Mark stayed, Lynn talked to him about the bus plans and videos, make money online. Mark was telling Lynn about all the people he knew that started online businesses. Lynn mentioned the online business he wanted to start. Mark took an interest in it and thought he could help Lynn start it by getting his friends to invest in it. I know he talked to at least one Harvard student, maybe more, that was interested in helping start it. Lynn was so happy, and it looked like it was going to all come together. He and his mom were having such a hard time trying to make ends meet with his bad health, and after his stepdad passed away, they really needed the good news. Lynn was so happy, calling everyone. Good news didn't last long, and Mark Zuckerberg couldn't be trusted. The first night, Mark wanted Lynn to buy him beer, and he refused. Mark stated he wanted it, and he was going to get it one way or another. That was the first sign that he couldn't be trusted. Then the girlfriend would show up late at night and leave early in the morning. Mark found the investors easily, but Lynn was going over all the ways. But after Lynn was going over all the ways it would work and how fast it would generate income, Mark wanted it for himself. He found the investors, and he felt it should be his. Lynn told him about losing a design he tried to patent due to lawyer bills. I know he worked on this a long time, and he kept saying he used his friends' experiences to create it. He wasn't going to just give it away. Mark kept bothering Lynn. He wanted it, and a lawyer got involved that was coaching Mark. Since Mark wanted it, Lynn wasn't going to get the investors. Mark kept asking Lynn what he wanted in exchange to give him the business plan. Eventually, Mark offered to let Lynn have a return from using the plan. I know Lynn wanted more like 20 or 30%. They got him down to 15%. It was explained that he would see 15 cents in every dollar made from using the business plan. I know he didn't want to do it. He was desperate. Bills were piling up, and he was trying to help his paralyzed friend. We got to see more bad sides to Mark. Mark wanted some parts that Lynn refused to sell. Mark insisted that Lynn would have to sell or give them to him. When Lynn said no, he got mad. When he wanted something, he thought he should have the ultimate right. He didn't like being told no. Just like the incident with telling Mark to go or to get him beer, and Lynn said no and not at his home, there was something else I noticed. He would get this blank stare and blink his eyes. I think he did it more so when he didn't get his way. Then afterwards, his mental state would be different. Lynn asked him several times if something was wrong. He would say, no, quit asking. Another point, I thought, he looked young to be driving the bus. If I remember correctly, he said he was 18 and counting the days down to buying beer in his state. He also mentioned that he was colorblind. Lynn asked how old he was and his full name. He said he was born May of 1984, and his full name was Marcel Elliott Zuckerberg, and he also went by Zuck. Here is where the situation really turned bad. The lawyer got involved, coaching Mark, and negotiating the deal. Told them to do a video of the business agreement that would later be put in writing. Mark used the same Sony disc camera that he was using to do the other videos. Mark was to give Lynn a copy of the disc with the video as proof and bring back a written agreement that the lawyer was to do. That is not what happened. They did the video, and Mark wanted Lynn to give him rights to his intellectual property. Lynn refused and told him he gets to use it for a percentage, that's the deal. Mark then refused to give Lynn a copy of the CD, then said something to Lynn about he should have known better than to trust him and he didn't want any photos or recordings taken of him. I think anyone can see what Mark was doing. Lynn said he thought he was robbing him. On the last day, Lynn asked Mark to take a picture of him, his mom, and his sister. Then the girlfriend pulled in driving Mark's car to pick up her dog. Lynn was talking to her while he was getting ready to leave. Before he left, Mark stole everything, the business plan, and any proof he was there. Lynn was devastated over what happened, and couldn't contact him. Mark wouldn't answer an email or call. He watched him on TV and was in disbelief that he didn't just get robbed, he was using his life's work to become rich and famous. He kept saying that he couldn't believe what was happening. He kept hoping he would make it right and would see a return. He kept wondering why the creation history they were telling was after the theft and not right. The facts were missing and misplaced. It appeared that after Mark robbed Lynn, he decided not to take classes in Iowa. Instead, he used Lynn's business plan to start Facebook. Lynn mentioned one of the Winklevoss twins he talked to on the phone as a possible investor. They are all hiding more than they let known. Lynn had been watching the news daily about Facebook, and there was a battle over ownership. The lawyer that coached Mark was representing him. Lynn was hoping that Mark would someday make it right with him. The lawyer called wanting to talk to Lynn. Janet answered the phone in the house, and I was sitting next to her. The lawyer wanted Lynn to give a statement that he gave Mark the business plan and intellectual rights to it. Janet yelled outside for Lynn to get the phone. Two people were visiting buying video equipment. One of them mentioned that he was an Iowa State trooper that went by Jim or John Smith. The other person he thought went by Dan. Janet was listening to the call in the house. I was trying to listen in. The two visiting overheard some of the call when Mark got mad when Lynn refused to give a statement or pass on intellectual rights. Lynn told him if he was going to keep lying to just lie some more. At one point, Mark said he might see a return if he would say he gave away his intellectual rights. The lawyer could be heard saying something that sounded like, "We got it," then voices yelling to hang up the phone. The call ended while Mark was talking. What a horrible thing to do to someone. They rob him and keep coming back for more and leave him with nothing. I know Lynn called around to lawyers for help with no luck. He didn't have any money to fight and no one would take it on for a percentage. Most wouldn't listen to him. Lynn asked me to do a witness testimony after a serious health diagnosis of muscular dystrophy and Sjogren's. Between the history of getting robbed with no return and the health problems and Sjogren's, between the history of getting robbed with no return, between the history of getting robbed with no return and the health problems and not having any income or Social Security to depend on, his outlook is not good. I didn't want to do this or get involved. The more I thought about it, the more I realized history should show the truth. He was the history, and I was there to witness it. I know there were plenty of witnesses to the events. After Lynn got the serious diagnosis, he talked to an attorney that recommended that he should expose the attorney for his part. Since he coached and directed Mark, then represented Mark, wanting Lynn to give a statement, and he gave everything to Mark. I know he has been trying very hard to expose the intellectual property theft and fraud. That was pretty nice. Thank you.